Hello again, my name is Mahi from the Wootton Computer Science Honor Society. Today we will be discussing how to add, remove, and resize arrays. To start off, one can create an array in multiple ways, shorthand or with predetermined values. Shorthand is as follows. This will have a size of 10 for strings. This will also have a size of 10. And lastly, for doubles, notice how the type of data is the only thing that's changing between these declarations. Each of these arrays will default to either 0 for the ints and doubles, or null in the case of the string array. And each of the arrays we just created, as I mentioned, have a size of 10, and they have index values ranging from 0 through 9 inclusive. With predetermined values, it's as follows. For integers, we can create an array like this, where we simply separate the data we want to include by commas and enclose it in curly brackets. Doubles will be the same as the ints. For a string, we will cover this because it will be a little different. You need to separate the data you want and enclose it in quotes because they're string literals. So just name off some animals here. This will not work if you don't include the quotes. To add to any one of the arrays we have here, we first have to learn how to access these indices. You have to have an index in mind before you can access it. Once we pick that index from 0 through 9, you can access it like so. So for this, we will access the first spot, so it will print out 1, correct? Because 1 is at the first spot. Yeah, and it did. So to change this value located at this spot, it's a similar process. We have to access this location, right? And then change it to our desired value. So when we print this value out again, it will be 100. Now to edit a string value, it's the same process, except remember we have to include quotes. So spot 0 should hold turtle, right? So we can change this spot by simply accessing spot 0 and then changing it to dog. So when we print out this spot 0, it should change to dog, correct? It did. Now to remove data from these indices, it will be a similar process. So remember how we previously changed the first value to 100. Now we want to act like nothing had ever been there. Remember the default for integers is 0. Just change it to 0. And for the strings, it will be a similar process. Remember how the default value for strings is null. Just change it to null. And then when we print out these values, it should be 0 and null. It doesn't always have to be 0 to designate that you haven't used this spot as well. Like if you wanted to designate it -1, it would be the same difference. So you can keep that in mind. Resizing is very similar to traversing an array, so we will quickly review that. To traverse an array's value, all you need to do is loop through the array. So for example, for the int array, we would loop through its length, because remember we're not including 10, and then we can print out each value or edit it need be, as we've shown before. We'd access element I. So everything should print out on a separate line, like so. And I can format this better. Yeah, so we see that everything is printed out on the same line. We can also access these elements to change their data as well. Now, to resize an array, it's a similar process. You need to create a temp array, which is like temporary, that you'll be using to manipulate some of the values, which is twice the size of the array, or whatever you require as the one you currently have. So for the string array, this will be our temporary array. Notice how it's double the length of the original one. And then you just need to loop through your array and copy over your already existing values. Notice how we're iterating through the new string array, not the new one we've just created, or we would get an out of bounds error. Now we want to set each part of the temporary array that we just created equal to the adjacent spot in the old array. To finish off, we should update the references. So we want to set our old array equal to the new one. So when we access these elements again, traverse through the old array, we should encounter some null values. And I'm going to print these out on the same line. So again, we should see some null values. Let me separate this so you can. Yeah. So we added these values over. Remember, we edited spot 1 to null previously, so that's why spot 1 is null. Thanks for watching this video on array operations. Remember to like and subscribe to CSHS for more tutorials in the future.